All right, good to go. So welcome, ladies, to day one of the Business Breakthrough Challenge. So you know me a little bit, some of you already, and I hate long drawn out introductions. So I'm going to go really quick through the beginning stage of this, and then we're going to dive straight in because it drives me nuts when I go to events and they take 25 minutes to, introduce themselves. So for any of you who don't know me, my name is Sarah Riopel. I'm a business and success coach in the online space for online coaches, and I deal with a lot of service-based entrepreneurs as well. My background is in commercial insurance. So that was my corporate days. I worked with a lot of oil field and construction companies, and it was very much in the old boys club. And I wore my stilettos to the oil field, I always used to say. And after about 10 years in insurance, I burned out really bad, and I wanted a different life. And I think a lot of people can relate to that. Sometimes we enjoy our careers or lots of pieces of our successful careers, but then there's other things that just drive us straight into the ground. And then one day you wake up and you're like, am I going to do this for the next 30 years? And if the answer is no, then eventually we look to something else to make a change, right? Especially when kids come into the picture, because, corporate success and family life don't always jive perfectly together. So that's a little bit about me and my background. I asked you all questions coming into this, which I love because I have a pretty decent idea of what's going on with you all. And most of you messaged me back, so thank you so much. I love the voice notes and the back and forth in the DMs. But basically what you've all told me on some level is I want to find my ideal clients. I want to book them. I want to launch a new offer or a new program. My biggest problem basically is what you're saying is attracting an ideal audience. So I firmly believe that we have lots and lots of amazing strategies and systems that are taught to us in the online space. But I also feel like there's this huge gap, which is because I experienced this myself, where we have all these strategies that work, but they don't work without leads. And so for me, that was like this great big missing hole for a lot of years, where I was just spinning in circles, and I honestly felt like, God, there's something wrong with me. And I felt like the best kept secret on the internet. I'm sure some of you can relate. You feel like you have something so powerful to be able to teach or to give other people, but you can't figure out how to get in front of them to even be able to tell them about it. And so then we resort to, creating a killer lead magnet and putting it on your website or in your link in bio, or, posting and praying basically is the solution that most of us end up with on social media. And then we end up taking all these courses on how to be fancy with content that converts, but it doesn't actually convert because we don't have an audience, or we don't have the right audience. So either you don't have enough people to talk to, or you don't have the right people in your audience. And that's kind of what it comes down to for the majority of us. So then on my little journey, I ended up stumbling across a virtual event. I'm going to talk a lot about virtual events because they're my favorite tool to use in online business. And the lady that was running it basically said, do you actually have a list of buyers? And at the end of the day, she was like, if you don't have an email list, you don't have a business. But what I learned is that it's actually one step further. It's like you can have an email list of thousands of people, but still not be making any money. So it has to be the right people that you're bringing in. And so that's kind of a little bit, I would say I've experienced all of this through the trial of life and failing myself forward. And now I feel like, okay, when I jump in with one-on-one clients, it's like, okay, we need to get your lead generation nailed down first, because there is no point in creating amazing offers and awesome programs and amazing content if nobody's going to see it, because then you are literally going to hear crickets on all three of those things, and you're going to feel like there's something wrong with you. So can anyone relate a little bit to that? You're like, yes. Okay, so basically what I want to talk about this week is how to grow a targeted audience quickly. And I'm going to talk a lot about how I did it and how I have failed my way forward into figuring out the process that I now teach. I also want to preface that by saying, I don't teach a cookie cutter strategy, because I think that's where a lot of us go wrong. I mean, we've all tried to learn the perfect webinar or the perfect launch or the perfect XYZ, whatever it is, the perfect funnel. And at the end of the day, it doesn't work, because there's so much of our personalities and our style that has to go into these things. as well as to match our ideal clients, who they are, what they want, stuff like that. And then where those two intersect, I call that like the X factor. That's where we're actually going to find that sweet spot. And that's where your momentum starts to take off and go crazy. And all of a sudden you're like, whoa, I have people reaching out to work with me regularly. Like, what is happening right now, right? So it's not because you created this one piece of amazing content or did this one thing. It's like, it's accumulation of putting your efforts in a process. I'm going to draw some diagrams because I came up with some good ones this week, just so that we can cement in what I'm talking about. But what I want you to walk away from this week is focus on the process, not the result. What I also would say about that is we're always looking for like the last missing piece of the puzzle. Like a lot of you have been at this for a while and you're like, I already have all these things done, all these things built out. You know, I really know what I want to do, but I feel like there's still this little missing link and I can't figure out what it is. And that's like the final domino that will knock over everything else. And then I can explode my business. I know that feeling 100% inside out. So if you're just getting started, I know a few of you have said you're just kind of getting started. That's okay. We're going to shortcut this pain train for you because if you focus on growing a targeted audience first, you will have results so much faster in your business and you will save yourself a lot of spinning in circles and frustration. So I just want to talk about this process a little bit because I'm going to talk about how to get consistency going in your business. And there's 3 areas I want to talk about. Because everyone always tells us you have to be consistent and then you'll be successful, right? Everybody always says the key to success is consistency. And you're like, yes, what do I do? You know? So when we're talking about consistency, I'm talking about visibility, lead gen, and sales. Ultimately, all roads lead back to sales. If you are in my community, it's because you're ambitious, you want to make money, and you want to have time on your hands because you probably have kids and other priorities than a lot of other people. So we do it a little bit of a different way. But we can all admit that we want to make a lot of money. I don't want anyone to ever feel bad in my community for wanting to make a lot of money. I think a lot of us are really good people and we want to do a lot of good things for our own families and for other people's families in our communities, but we can't do that unless we're making a lot of money. And so when it comes to a lot of us having, you know, there's one of my best friends wants to run all these nonprofits and I don't want to run the nonprofits, but I want to fund the nonprofits, right? So like that's part of my vision and my overall long-term why. I want to be able to hand somebody like her the money so that she can go and build all these amazing programs for these people. So you might have something similar like that too. Some of us, I think most of us are after freedom at the end of the day. And for ambitious moms, that usually means money in the bank, time on your hands, right? Because then you have options and you have choices to go do whatever you want. So whether that's volunteering, whether that's traveling with your family, whether that's taking a trip with your husband, and you can pay for somebody to look after all the things at home, you know, if you don't have parents close by or whatever, it means something different to all of us, but it's very similar in what we're actually after. So it's like the ability to have more than enough so that we can give back. I think that's also a common theme. So when we're doing that, I want you to just remember that all roads lead to sales for a good reason. It's not just because we're greedy mofos, you know what I mean? Okay, so what precedes consistency? That's where I was going with this. Clarity, confidence, and commitment are the 3 C's that I believe are what everyone needs to create consistency in their businesses. Probably in your life too, but let's just stick with business for this. We only have half an hour, so when you are super clear on what it is that you want in your business, who you want to serve, and the problem that you want to solve, like what you want to sell, it makes it so much easier to start figuring out, okay, so who do I need to go talk to? What does she actually need from me? And so when we're talking about creating consistent visibility, to me means content that you're showing up with consistently. Lead generation is the intentional step to bring people, new people into your world. And then sales, of course, is converting, nurturing and converting those people. So when we're looking at clarity, it's like you need to be crystal clear on who your level 10 ideal client actually is. Otherwise, you're just shooting in the dark all the time. And that's not what creates content that converts. That's what we're all after, right? But it's like, we think there's some secret magic sauce, but it's really talking to real people. So I know that a couple of you were already on my masterclass that I did last week or the week before. And we talked a lot about going and talking to real people, AKA market research. Nobody wants to talk about market research. It's like Buckley's, it tastes awful, but it works, right? So you have to take the time to go in and actually talk to your real people, because that's how you quickly figure out, first of all, whether you thought your ideal client actually matches who your ideal client is, because you get chemistry, you get a feeling from people when you start talking to them, to know like, okay, that was not the kind of person that I actually wanted to bring into my program or my coaching. I don't want to show up for that person every single week. You know what I mean? So it's very much a difference between who you can get to pay you for something versus who you actually really want to show up and work with and over deliver for. There's a difference there. And when we don't do market research, I know this because I did this for years. You gloss over that, you put it on your to-do list, you know, or you think it'll just sort itself out as you go. It doesn't. You have to get clear on who you want to work with. And the fastest way to do that is to talk to her. And the other thing about that piece is, if you start to get super clear on that, now all of a sudden your messaging becomes clear. And I'm going to talk a lot about virtual events this week, like I mentioned. So you start to get super clear on the topics that you want to bring in, the other speakers that you want to collaborate with, the messaging that goes around pulling people to that. So you want to start to get really specific about who you're pulling in. Because if you're, let's say you're a health coach that wants to work with women over 40, and you're saying, you know, come to this event where we're going to talk about, I don't know, what do 20-year-olds talk about? Losing 5 pounds before the next party or something. You know, that's very different than feeling healthy and strong after 40 as like the subject line that you're bringing people in with. So think about this in terms of clarity as like, if I know exactly what my ideal client is looking for or thinks she's struggling with right now, it makes my life so much easier to know how to put on headlines and topics and content that will pull her in specifically, so that I'm not wasting my time on all these other, it's not that, that sounds really bad, I'm not wasting your time on all the other people, but it's like, at the end of the day, you know that you want to work with a certain person, you know that you can help a certain person the most. So stop trying to help everybody in the world, right? So clarity comes again from talking to real people. I'm going to talk about market research, but also once you have clarity, it builds confidence instantly. Because all of a sudden you're like talking to your husband, or you're talking to your best friend having coffee, and you're just like, you know exactly what you're moving forward towards now, because you're clear on what you're doing. So clarity breeds confidence, confidence sells, and also confidence ends up creating all kinds of commitment. So forward in one direction, stay on one process until successful, stay with one strategy. You know what I mean? It's so easy, and I'm sure a lot of you can relate, to pivot all over the place and to chase all the shiny objects online. But then you're driving yourself bananas, right? So you want to have clarity, confidence, and commitment, which ultimately equals your consistency. Now I want to add another piece to it, which is something that, like, you know, puzzle pieces just drop in sometimes in your life or in your business. And for me, it was, okay, well, what is right before all these three? And it's connection. So I'm going to teach you a little bit about market research, because I, again, think that's such a key piece to success online. But connection is going to run through every single thing that I talk about this week. So all the virtual events that you want to create, you want to ask questions as people come through. You want to try to reach out to them. Most of you I've talked to in the DMs ahead of time, which is also the advantage. I think a lot of us think, oh, well, I used to think this, I need to put on an event where I can grow by 2,000 people on my email list. And it's like, yeah. And on the other side of that, if I have a $97 offer or something, or a $200 offer, that's probably a good strategy for me. But if you're into high ticket sales, you need to build a different level of know, like, and trust. So you don't really want to pull 2,000 people in at a time necessarily, because how are you going to go talk to all of them? You won't be able to ever. So you can definitely pull in 2,000 and then create another event on the back end. I love putting stacking events behind summits, because summits aren't really, I run summits because they pull in a lot of the right people with the topics and the speakers that I pull together. so that I build my audience with the right people. But then that's not my conversion process. I don't convert on summits. I actually convert off of events after summits. So if you've tried to run summits before and you're like, yeah, I brought all these new people, these new faces into my community, but nothing happened, right? And that's super common. You have to know how to nurture and convert on the back end. So that's a process we're going to talk about. We're going to touch on this week too. But do you guys see how this little map that I just put out here just kind of makes sense? If you're connecting with real people, it builds this clarity, confidence, and commitment, which creates the consistency, which allows you to show up consistently, generate leads consistently, and sell consistently. Came up with that one this morning at 5 a.m. Is this landing for you guys? I just want to hear a little bit of feedback, and I'm going to check Facebook and see if we're, oh, Yandel, she jumped into Facebook. Okay. Post and pray for so long, Jean says. Yeah, I know. So you never clued in, you didn't have the right audience, because then it makes it feel like there's something wrong with you, right? Super relatable for crickets, Yandel says. Yeah, and the thing is that you can be creating the best content in the world. Like everyone says, oh, content is king or whatever. And it's like, well, no, not really. I don't know very many people who have actually succeeded by just posting content on the internet. Even the influencers who have a bazillion followers and who are making a lot of money, if you ask them how they started, they posted a lot of content, but they also went out and strategically and intentionally generated an audience of the right people for themselves. Yeah, making sense so far. I'm just gonna check the chat in here. Where's the chat button? Zoomers, is this landing for you? Zoomers. Catherine says, yeah, okay, good. So basically what I wanna say is, this is the little C's. Can you guys see all that? I was gonna try to stand for this, but I'm just giant and pregnant. Okay, so the other thing I want to talk about is I only teach imperfect strategies, just so you guys know. So that's why my stuff is always imperfect. It will never be canned. It will never be perfect. It will never be whatever. It's like, I want to feed off of what you guys have said to me coming into this thing and make sure that I'm delivering. So that's what I'm doing. And I don't have perfect slideshows for that reason. I just like to, draw it out and make sure that I'm getting the message across. So I love that you guys are all taking notes too. Okay, so this is kind of geared more towards the ones who have been at this for a little while, and you're like, yeah, I'm looking to hit 10K or 15K plus soon. Again, 5Kers, there was a lot of you that came in that said you want to hit 5K, and that's cool, because I think it's important to know that you want to hit sustainable 5K months and then figure out how to hit the next level, right? So this is basically what you're going to hear over and over in the online space. Fix your messaging, create offers that sell, content that converts, and how to sell it out, or how to effectively convert people into clients, right? So what I want to do this week is talk about, well, if you have a bunch of these puzzle pieces already built out, how is it that we can actually pull them together now? Because this is what I mean about the business breakthrough. I want you to find the missing link in your business, and I'm guessing that it's your audience. It's because you don't have the right leads. And the other piece about it is that you'll not know if any of these 4 main pieces of your business are working unless you have enough of the right leads to talk to. Okay, yeah, you're saying 100% audience. Okay, good. So do you know if your messaging is awesome or it sucks? Well, you don't know if you don't have the right people in front of you, right? So what I mean by this is, if you're creating amazing content that should really move somebody into action, but you only have your Aunt Shirley and some girl named Kim from high school watching and commenting on your stuff, that's not a you having crap content, that's you not having an audience. So that's why I'm just going to make sure that we're cementing in the reason that we want to make sure that we nail the right audience is so that you can, because then you can come in and fix these 4 things, but you don't even know if they don't work. And you keep circling back into more of these 4, right? You're like, my content's still not converting. I'm still hearing crickets, or I'm still not selling anything. And I thought I had this awesome offer, but I got no sales and I gave it my all. And it's like, yeah, but you only had 3 people looking for you. And if the timing wasn't right for them, then it wasn't right for them, because timing actually does come into play. It's not because you have these magic words that are the perfect solution. Somebody also has to meet you with that's what they want at the time, right? So yeah, I wanted to talk about that, those 4 things. We are going to fix this with leads. Any questions so far? Definitely your audience. Yeah. Okay, so I think this is pretty clear. I want to talk about summits or messaging today, market research. I kind of feel like most people just like to get straight into the meat, which is like, well, what kind of virtual event could I run and how does this work, right? Just nod your heads if you want to go summits and virtual events, or hold up a 2 if you want to, like, this is how sophisticated this system is. If you'd rather talk about market research and your ideal client first. Rachel says 2, Catherine says 2. Oh, that's interesting. Most people want to avoid that like the plague. Literally all of the Zoomers just said market research. Okay. Well, market research is very, very important because it is the key to knowing how to move forward with your events. So first of all, why do we do market research? To nail down your ideal client. This is not the same thing as filling out another avatar worksheet, ideal client, dream, whatever board. This is not the same thing as that. This is where you actually get into the action. So I'm going to talk about this a lot this week too. There's a very big difference between having information and learning versus executing and actually taking action, right? We all know that. Yandel says 2 as well. Okay, perfect. So like I mentioned earlier, market research is like Buckley's. It tastes awful and it works. And when you're first starting to do it, it sucks. It's not fun. It's not sexy. It doesn't feel like an income producing activity. It doesn't feel like you're in forward motion. And so a lot of us avoid it, and we also don't know how to do it or where to start. So that's another piece of it too. If you know how to tackle a project, you go do it, right? But if you don't really know, like, well, where are my people? I don't even know how, then you're gonna hesitate. And if you're confused at all, of course, a confused mind hesitates. So basically, market research, the way I like to talk about it and approach it, is talking to real people. And the fact of the matter is that we have this amazing space, which is the online world, where we can go out and talk to those people. A little bit. And you're going to kiss a lot of frogs before you find your prince, if you know what I mean. And I don't mean that in terms of like some people are bad or good. I just mean, are they the right people for you? Because that's what we're going to start focusing on. I know so many people that will ask market research questions to people that are not technically their ideal clients. And then they go create offers and content and events and things like that based on the opinions of people that, for marketing purposes, shouldn't matter for their action. Does that make sense? So, oh, we have a kid in the house. Hello. So when it comes to this stuff, it's like, if you want to know how to help, what's some examples? I'm just trying to remember what all your businesses are. If you want to help overwhelmed working moms, you don't want to be asking people who are already retired, or their kids are at a different stage of life, or older, or you don't want to be asking somebody who hasn't had kids yet, or you don't want to be asking, like, if you're helping really driven professional women deal with mom guilt and balancing life and all that kind of stuff, you're not going to talk to stay-at-home moms to ask them the questions that you need. I mean, I know that sounds like very simple, but that's what a lot of people are doing. They're just asking any mom what they're struggling with, or any, and it doesn't give you the right information. So for me, for example, I'm doing a big, huge market research push right now. I have my team that is helping me with the initial reach outs for 2 reasons. I know that some of you were at the last masterclass. I talked about this, but I want to touch on it again because I think it's really important. I create a DM strategy to go out and talk to real people one by one, because we're willing to do the real work that will move the needle. And so when it comes to market research, you can't just post in a couple other Facebook groups and hope for the best. You know what I mean? Like that. And then most people will do that. And then they'll say, I can't find my people and nobody answered me. And then they stop. And I'm like, how bad do you want this? Like, you need to go figure out your people. You can't just stop and come back to me with this excuse. And it's interesting because I make sure that speaking of messaging, I speak to that stuff in my messaging. Like, if you're not willing to do the real work or to take coaching and run with it, then you're not my ideal client and I'm not your ideal coach, because it goes both ways, right? So I work with ambitious moms generally. The odd time it's not a mom, but ambitious moms have different priorities and different problems because we need to get a lot of stuff done in a very short amount of time. So I speak to that with my messaging. So I'm not going to then go and talk to like my buddies that I used to work with in insurance, who are all guys who have wives that take care of everything at home for them. A lot of them do, because that would not give me the type of information for my market research that I need, because I don't know what ambitious moms are struggling with if I go talk to dudes. You know what I mean? And again, this sounds really elementary, but just make sure that like you're getting really strategic with the questions that you're going to ask, and also the types of people that you're going to look for. So as an example, I had one of my VAs reaching out on LinkedIn, and I had, she's not called my VA, she's just a friend of mine. But she was working with me right now, and her name's Janine, and she went out and reached out on a whole bunch of accounts on Instagram. And we reached out with real life words, messaging. You know, I could read you some of my stuff. Janine, if you're still watching, can you drop in just like type in some of the comments that we heard? Because, you know, when you see somebody cold pitching you in the DMs, this is why a lot of people stray away from this strategy for market research. But people cold pitch you in the DMs all day long, every day. If you're in business, this is happening to you, I'm sure. And the problem with that is that it ruins it for the rest of us who are actually looking to connect and get real information. So number one, make sure that when you go out to do this strategy, that you're using your real life voice. And mine sounds something like, hey, I saw that you're this type of coach. You seem like, you know, a fit like my ideal client. Was wondering if I could ask you a couple of questions. Literally no secret salesy crap. Like, I think we're all sick of the pitches in the DMs, the cold pitches. Would you be open to it? I don't know the exact language, but it's something like that. It was just the way I would actually talk. And you would be surprised how many people message back and are like, thank you for your honesty. Yeah, I'll totally answer the questions. Some people will say, yeah, I'm here for it as long as there's no sales. And that's cool, because that's a cool response. And there's lots of different variations of that. Hey, Kim, I just saw you hopped in. But at the end of the day, the piece that's the most important is figure out your voice, figure out a bit of a flow and a script that's going to work for you. You can delegate this process out once you've nailed it down to a VA so that you can protect your energy and your heart. Because I take things personally when people don't like me. And so people not responding to me sometimes feels like rejection to me. So I stopped having that affect me by hiring help to go do that initial reach out. And then once people answer back, then I go read it and jump into the DMs. So does that make sense? So you can create a really solid market research strategy by reaching out. This is the time when I say, yes, it's good to go reach out one by one online, is when you're figuring out market research. Because if you start nailing down your level 10 client, now you're going to pull people in using summits or collaborative events with other people so that you pull the right people in quickly. Now you're going to nail down your messaging, your offers, your content. And of course, all roads lead to sales at the end. But if you have the right words, because you've talked to enough real people that are your ideal client, now you have a completely different set of ammunition to go into the battle with. You know what I mean? It's like, we're switching to guns. We got to go do market research. I'm a Top Gun fan. So if anybody else is, then we're switching to guns here. We're going to do the real work. Yes, Catherine says, yeah. We're going to do the real work that moves the needle now, because I came into the online space and I fell in love with the idea of attraction marketing, because my career was literally, I cold called out of the phone book for my job. And I made over 6 figures before I was 30, bootstrapping my way through the freaking phone book, calling machine shops and oil field guys. And I used to have to, it was so much work to just prove that I even had a brain to get a shot at the account. But I freaking did it because I did the real work. So then I came into the online space and they were like, attraction marketing is where it's at. And I came in network marketing to start, which I'll forever be grateful for, because I would have never done the personal growth ever in my life that I did in network marketing when I came into the wild, wild west of online business, I call it. But it just wasn't the right industry for me. So I got back to my business roots where I'm super passionate. And then now I run with it. But at the end of the day, real work that moves the needle, you have to go do the real work. And so part of that I would suggest is getting super clear. I always say, find your fire first, man. Like if you're not lit up by your business, then why not just go back to a job? It's so much easier, you know? So we want to be free. We want the money and the time, but we also want to be fulfilled. I think that's another piece of it. And so what you want to do is you want to go out into the world when you're doing your market research with that same type of fire and connect with real people that are potential clients, and do not pitch them at any point. They are literally your market research. And a lot of them end up in your audience, and then they raise their hand and say, oh, like some of you might have even come in on that train. Maybe one of my VAs reached out to you on social, on LinkedIn or on Instagram. And maybe we had a good conversation in the DMs, and then you saw, you know, that I had this thing coming up and you're like, yeah, I'd love to jump in for that. So that funnel worked without me being a pitchy, sleazy jerk in the DMs. You know what I mean? But I also got invaluable words straight out of your mouths when I did market research so that I can market towards you. Does that make sense? So it's like, I know this is like a weird way to do it because you're like, oh, I'm in her funnel like that, but that's business. Like that's how this works. So I want to teach you guys exactly how to do that. And that's what we're talking about. So market research, I don't want to go over time. So I think I have like 1 minute left. Tonight, I'm going to challenge you. Here's your homework. Here's your action step of the day, damn it. I would love it if you would go out and talk to 3 potential ideal clients and find out strategically what they are struggling with on a path to one of your offers. So what do I mean by that? If you are selling some, like if I'm saying I want to talk to ambitious moms who are coaches who have high ticket offers, and for me, that's like anything over $500 a month. So if it's like a 6-month program, it has to be worth at least $3,000. So that's kind of how I benchmark it. Just to kind of like put some specifics, because we can't just say high ticket offer. Some people sell $78,000 offers for 6 months of coaching, and some people sell $3,000, right? So there's such a variance. So you kind of have to define that for yourself. But I'm like, okay, who can I help the most? I can help somebody who wants to start selling out their one-on-one and their group coaching programs. And this is like the range of price range that that I know that I can support best. So now I go out into the world and I go and help people with their one-on-one and group like if they have as part of their goals to sell out one-on-one or group coaching programs in the next 6 to 12 months. Now I ask what their price point is and a little bit more about their ideal client, right? And so it leads into a conversation where I can now fully support them with the next event that I create. So this is going to sound like a little bit of a broken record, but this is the piece that you want to focus on the most. The connection piece, the go talk to real people. Market research is just talking to real people and narrowing it down. Everyone says, well, I don't want to get too specific because I'll leave money on the table. No, I promise in the online space, you will not. You have to get specific. Otherwise you will have no money on the table. So another little quick analogy that I wanted to give you guys is the goal of market research for you is to figure out who your B is. So your ideal client, the one you have the best chemistry with, the one you know you can help the most, the one who's ready to take a step. You know, we don't want to sit here and spend our whole businesses convincing people that they want to invest in their businesses or themselves, or, you know what I mean? Like, go look for the people who are actually looking for a solution. Otherwise, it's an uphill battle that nobody wants to fight, right? So this is 3 lanes on a freeway. This is my little drawing of a freeway. So you have a choice to talk to A, B, or C, which is everybody that's out there. And what you want to do is zero in on your B, because if you're talking straight down the lane at B, She can hear you loud and clear, but A and C can also hear you, and they can decide to merge into this lane with B, because they can decide to step up, or that they are ready, or that they are, you know what I mean? Like all these different things, but you can't convince them of that. They have to decide that on their own. But if you're talking to B, who is your ideal client, you're level 10, I'm talking like, you can't wait to jump on those calls with that person, because you know they're going to take the coaching and run. Or you know that you absolutely love to teach whatever it is that you're talking about that she wants to know. That's your ideal client right there. And you're going to talk straight down the middle to her, because if you try to talk to A, B, and C at the same time, it's just mixed signals like a traffic jam and nobody can hear you. So the goal is do enough market research so that you are super clear about who B is. I'm going to call that know thy target, because I think it really describes it. Know thy. Is that like Shakespeare or something? I'm like, where did thy come from? I don't know. Target. Is this like, is this all landing? Okay, perfect. So my challenge to you tonight is to go talk to 3 people. Talk to enough people until you talk to 3. This might take you a half an hour to go reach out to enough people that you'll actually get into a DM conversation. I highly encourage you to try this, because the more you do this, and it's only 3 people, the more you're going to realize that it's actually so easy to do. And then it's like, oh, I can do 30 in 30 days, no problem. Because that's what I challenge my clients to do, 30 in 30 days. And I'm talking about talking to real people, not just 30 reach outs. Talking to 30 real people in 30 days will give you so much clarity on what you need to do next for pulling people into virtual events, for the content that you're going to put out, for the offers that you're offering, for all of it, which leads to sales, right? So 30 and 30, the reason I use the number 30 is because 10 of those 30 will probably be the right chemistry for you. So even if you think that they're like along the lines of, you'll see a pattern start to emerge with about 10 of them, like about a third of them, which is why you don't want to only do 10, because you can't base all your stuff in your business on 3 people's opinions. But you can start to build stuff off of 10 people's opinions out of 30, right? So you'll see, if you talk to 30, you're going to have a couple of A's and a couple of C's, and you're going to find probably 10 B's. And then you're going to be able to create content for those people to pull them in. Because the other thing about marketing that I want to point out really quickly is that you have to give people what they want in order to deliver what they actually need. So anybody who's heard a lot of crickets and stuff like that, yes, you need leads, absolutely. But sometimes there's also that next step, which is they don't even understand that you have what they want or what they need, because people don't know what they don't know. So just because I know that a lot of people need to run virtual events, and actually I would say the hidden secret in my stuff is that they need to go do market research. I think I mentioned this last time. I don't sell how to do market research 101 because nobody shows up to that class, right? But if I can bring you in and say, let's build you a targeted audience quickly, you're like, yes, I need more leads. I need to find the right people, because that is exactly what you want right now and think that you're struggling with the most, which is true for you. But I'm saying on the other side of that, this is going to make this go so much faster and easier to get the right leads in if you go figure out exactly who you want to talk to first. And most of us didn't even realize that we didn't know who we were talking to. Does that make sense? Okay, cool. Is everybody up for the challenge today? Don't let this be like another one of those things where you're like, yeah, I'll get there. I'm just like, go talk to, just find 3 people today. Make it happen in your calendar. I know you can do it. This is going to, regardless of what happens next week, this is going to help you move forward and just understand one more thing, because people unlock the keys for you if you let them. So go find 3 people tonight. If you're not in the Facebook group yet, go back to my email that I sent out with the links today. Join the Facebook group, and I'm going to post a thread for the homework today. And I'll do like a draw for anybody who does the homework this week. I'll do a draw for a free 90-minute intensive or something with me. Sure, that's the offer. Because I really, really, really want you guys this week to not just learn and take information. I want you to move forward. I want you to execute. And I want by the end of this, you to see like the pieces of what you need to create for your own process to generate consistent leads and sales. Okay, I went over time. Sorry. That's me. I'll just quickly go through the comments and then I'll let you guys go eat the frog. Eat the frog. Because I said kiss a few frogs to find your prince. So you said eat the frog. I love it.
Have you ever read the book?
No.
There's a book that's like eat that frog, and the whole point is like,
that's actually what it's about.
Yes.
Oh my God,
Well, I mean, it's about like doing the one thing that you absolutely hate doing and doing that first thing in the morning or like first thing of your day, because most of us would put it off like the plague.
Well, yeah, that's the exact same theory of do the real work, because we gloss over the steps that actually build the foundations. And then we have all this fancy stuff. I say, don't get fancy, get focused first, because if you're not making money, then you don't know if anything's working. And the way to make money is to first get really clear on who you're talking to and actually talk to them, and then create things that those people would want and march them through the process of getting to know you, like you, trust you. So that I'm a huge fan of signing one-on-one clients first and then taking it to group, just because you understand a process, a flow, and you can serve people in a group so much better if you've already done it with one-on-ones first. That's my philosophy. Some people think the opposite, but I just know that you can sell a lot easier one-on-one, and you can help someone so much more one-on-one, especially if you don't know your process properly yet. Like you don't have it. And when I say properly, I don't mean like you don't know what you're doing. I mean like you don't have this thing nailed inside and out. So the way that I believe that you should do that is to go and sign one-on-one clients first. And then we, eventually once you run out of roster schedule, you have too many one-on-ones on your calendar, you want to be able to serve more people and make more money. Now you can put that flow, that process into a group setting, because now you understand where people get stuck, what the majority of people need to come through. That's exactly why I'm teaching this stuff now in a group setting, is because I had enough one-on-one clients come through that I realized that that was the pattern that everyone was stuck on. And number one, it starts with find your fire. Number two, market research. So I always say find your fire first, because if you don't know what you want, then you're shooting in the dark and you're building a business that is shoulds instead of like heart opening wants. That sounds a little woo, but like, I just feel so strongly that if you're not lit up by your business, that it's not going to be worth it in the long run, because business is hard. So find your fire, market research. Catherine says she's at the beginning, so market research needs to happen. Yeah, and let me just say that the majority of entrepreneurs who've been in the space for 5 or more years that I have worked with, who feel like they're stuck or spinning or just can't figure out this missing link, it's because they haven't done the market research. They always glossed over it. They always skipped over that part of the course. A lot of courses say like, go talk to your ideal client, find out what they want, blah, 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 blah. And then they go to the next module and you're like, okay, but hold the phone. All the rest of the modules that come afterwards are not going to actually succeed unless you actually do this one first. Like nobody says that. So then everybody, just myself included, I know I've been to a lot of high ticket programs where we glossed right over that part and went and built out all the fancy funnels and the fancy this and that, and it didn't work. And it's like, well, was it the strategy that didn't work? No, because that strategy does work, but I didn't do my market research and I didn't focus on leads. Those were my two, which is why I talk about them all the time, because I failed my way forward. And now those are the missing links that I see the most with the women that I work with. So Catherine, this is perfect, because you are not going to put yourself through 5 years of frustration, not knowing who you're trying to pull in. One other thing I wanted to add, I'll get to your stuff in a second, is when we focus on the process instead of the results, then we focus on knowing how to build the skill set, like market research, like I'm going to show you how to, build out some virtual events and stuff like that. When you understand the process that needs to happen to pull that target audience through to sales, then it doesn't matter later if you evolve or your client, clients are evolving, because you have the skill set of building that process. So now you can replicate that quickly. Even if you decided to like pivot your business and go in a different direction, you still understand the process to bring targeted audience, targeted leads in, nurture them, and convert them into sales. So that's another thing that's so hard about just building an offer that sells, is like, okay, but it doesn't build the skill set that you need to have that process nailed down that you can use in the future over and over again. So hopefully that's helpful, because you could just, like, I was in the health coaching space first. And I was talking to people about gut health issues. Like I'm talking leaky gut, gluten intolerance, celiac, colitis, like all this crazy stuff. And then I switched back over into business because that's actually what lights me up. And I don't want to talk about people's constipation and diarrhea all the time, just to be honest. And, but it was like, well, what do I do? And that's when I realized that it was like a leads problem and not like just a me problem. So if you learn to build the skill of the process of pulling in a targeted lead and converting them into sales, then it will last you anytime you're in business, let alone online business. And if you decide to pivot your business later, or you switch, some people will run programs for a couple of years and they'll be like, I actually don't like working with this ideal client profile. I want to switch to this. Because something has evolved for you or something changes for you too, or you just don't enjoy that scene anymore. That's cool. But do you have the ability to shift now and quickly build that audience for that new direction that you're going in? That's what I want to teach you this week. I want you guys to have the process. Okay. Sorry, I just want to get to these quick. Your initial voice DM, is that your voice or your VA's voice? Oh, always me. So they will do the original type, written out, reach out. And then if somebody comes back and says, yeah, sure, no problem, send me the questions, then my VA will send 2 questions written. And then when she comes back with an answer, then she'll Vox me and then say this one just responded in Instagram or LinkedIn or whatever. And then I'll go and I'll actually jump in, read the thread and then jump. And now it's my conversation. Now I'm taking it. Does that make sense? And if you're doing it all yourself at the beginning, you could start with a voice note if you want to. I usually start with a written text just because I know when could be totally different for you. When I see something come up that I don't know who it's from and it's a voice note, I'm less likely to check it. But if it says something cool in the first line, I'll open it. And it could even just be a quick one-liner, and then you could add a voice note if you wanted to. Find your own flow and what works for you and your ideal client. That's what I say. It's not an exact science. So don't make it out to be something where you have to be perfect. Just start talking to people. Honestly, that's the best advice I can give. And then over time, you kind of a script kind of evolves and develops. I could give you my exact script, but it won't be the same voice as yours, right? So just go talk to 3 people, drop it in the homework thread tonight in the Facebook group. And then, like I said, anybody who actually does the homework this week for the 4 days, I'll put everybody's name in the hat at the end and I will do a draw for a free 90-minute breakthrough session with me. Okay, I just wanted to, you can read mine. What does that mean? Sorry, Catherine. Okay, sorry, I just have to go back to Facebook. Having a hard time finding people, me too, talking to new people or people already in my community. I go talk to new people, but if you have not actually done any conversations with people who are in your community, by all means, start there. That's low-hanging fruit for you to go and talk to. So if you have, I think you have a pretty big Facebook group maybe built. Where's most of your community? Because you could easily go in, you can kind of stalk somebody quickly online and see if they're kind of the vibe. So for me, if I go and I look at somebody's social and they're super depressing, or all the posts that they have are complaining about something to do with, I don't know, the world or politics or something, if that's all they fill their feed with, then I don't talk to them because those are not my people. But if it's somebody that has some cool inspirational quotes or a little bit of funny humor with their kids or whatever, and they're a coach and, it looks like they probably have a group coaching or one-on-one program potential, then I'll go and connect with them. 82 people in a Facebook group is not nothing. 82 people is a lot of real people to go talk to. So you can start there 100%, or you can start from scratch. It doesn't matter. Whatever energetically feels better to you, because that's what you will actually go and execute. Oh, Kim, you're just talking to Yandel. Okay, perfect. Okay, so if anybody is not clear on what to do, or they feel hey, this is a great idea, but I don't know how, I want you right after we get off this thing to get into my DMs. You can voice note me or you can type it and say, I love this idea, but I'm scared and I don't know what to do. and then I will coach you through it, because each individual person is going to have a little bit of a different strategy, obviously a different ideal client, and I'll help you individually. But when I run my challenges, I coach it for free all week in the DMs. So use that, get into my DMs right after this call and just be like, okay, here's what I'm thinking. What do you think? Like anything you want to ask me, just get in there. I will coach you for free in the DMs this week. I'm way over time now, so I apologize, but I had a lot to say today. Day one's always like fun, like let's get her going. And tomorrow I'm going to try to keep it to half an hour. And the rest of the week, we're going to literally, what you find out tonight from 3 people could literally start to shift the way you were looking at things or the way you want to pull people in. Because I'm going to encourage you to come up with like at least 1, maybe 2 events for the next 6 months that are collaborative with other entrepreneurs in your space to pull in your targeted leads. But it starts with making a decision on obviously a date, how many speakers, all those kinds of things, but what kind of a theme, what kind of a topic do you want to pull people in? You know what I mean? So the more you start to learn your ideal client, the more we can strategize. Okay, well, if you want to sell out whatever, let's say nutrition coaching, then you want to pull in somebody that's 2 steps ahead of that with a theme for a summit or a virtual event, like a collaboration. That would make sense for that crowd to come and congregate there. And then you have natural next steps on the other side of it for certain people that come. So it's all going to be based on strategy and intention, but it's also doing the real work that will actually give you the information that you need to actually execute that properly. Some of you are brand new to this, so it's like, I don't even know. It's like, cool, let's start, because we can always pivot and evolve as we go. But some of you are like, no, I'm pretty sure I know exactly who I need to pull in now. I've struggled with this forever, and I'm going to go talk to real people, and I'm going to make sure that this is right instead of just guessing, because guessing, of course, in marketing doesn't take us anywhere. And then you are going to be able to start strategically executing and taking the action steps that is going to move the needle forward, that is going to wind up in sales. So get into my DMs right after this if you don't know what to do, but go talk to at least 3 people tonight. And then in the homework thread, drop some ahas about like, holy crap, here's some words she was using that I didn't expect, or here's something she said she thinks she's struggling with that I would have never targeted. Or because don't forget, she's going to say something that she wants that's going to be different than what you know she needs. And we need to market to that want or that pain, right? Or that desire, not what we know she needs. Just like market research. I'm not going to say, come on down, let's do some market research, because you're going to say, no, I don't need to. But then I'm going to say, you want to grow 6-figure sales? We need to pull in 6-figure leads. We need to go find out know thy target first. So we're going to do market research. And you're like, okay, fine. Right? It's just a little bit different. Okay, I'm signing off. Thank you so much for coming. We will see you girls tomorrow. And hopefully this was helpful. Have a good night.